Tian then pulled out all of the black robes, blindly picking at them, trying to find the brocade immortal with no success. He could only put on the white cultivator robe he had tossed on the side anew and turned to Huacheng. This really isn't working. Looks like we'll have to take the entire chest of clothes with us. Hearing this, Huacheng pfft and snickered, and Tian felt a little woeful, feeling rather ridiculous himself. Taking a few dozen robes as blackmail material, so silly. But with things as they were, there really weren't any better ideas. Yet unexpectedly, just as he was stuffing all the randomly strewn black robes back into the chest and was about to carry the thing, the doors to the side chamber opened and Linguin walked in with a hand behind her back, looking exhausted. Linguin was probably done resting and was ready to return to put the brocade immortal back on. Yet she ran into the two uninvited guests who had broken into the chamber, one looking incredibly innocent, while the other looked nonchalant. With no words to say about the situation, two of her fingers were instantly put together and pressed to her temple. She was going to inform Junwu. However, Huacheng moved faster than her. With only a look, the two doors to the side chamber rapidly shot closed, and Linguin's face also suddenly appeared to have dropped as she lowered her hand. "Hua Chengju is indeed incredible," she said. "Sanlang, you've created a ward?" Shilin asked. "I've established a small one," Huacheng said. "The perimeter is only set to this side chamber." Junwu could establish a ward within the heavenly capital, isolating everyone within the ward from the outside world. Naturally, Huacheng could also create an even smaller ward, sealing the spiritual powers of those within and preventing them from communicating spiritually. A small ward within a larger ward. In this moment, the side chamber had become a chest within a chest. However, this was Junwu's domain after all. The ward established couldn't be built too big, lest Junwu notice. Shilin nodded. "Linguin, I'm sure you can see that the brocade immortal is currently in our hands. If you don't want to have it burnt to bits by ghost fire, please don't make any reckless moves." Yet unexpectedly, when Linguin heard him, she laughed. "But, Your Highness," Linguin said, "the brocade immortal isn't actually in your hands." To be honest, Shilin had suspected as much. Nonetheless, he still voiced the most logical deduction of the current situation. "Linguin, after you've come in and out, you didn't wear it anymore. I don't think the brocade immortal is anywhere else but here in the side chamber." However, Linguin said, "Your Highness, have you perhaps misunderstood something? I only said that it's not in the chest in your hands. I didn't say it wasn't here inside the side chamber." Hearing this, Shilin suddenly thought of a possibility and slightly turned his head. Huacheng must have thought of the same thing he did, and the two both moved their eyes to the white robe on Shilin's person. You've guessed right," Linguin said. "Right now, it's being worn by Your Highness." Earlier, when Shilin was trying on the other black robes, he had casually thrown aside the white robe he wore. Later, when he inspected the clothes, all the robes had already been lumped together. Somehow, that brocade immortal had unsuspectingly taken on the appearance of those white cultivator robes of his, and then was picked up and put on his person. Shilin looked down at his clothes and wondered inwardly, "Then where's my original outer robe?" Huacheng lifted his hand, and that chest of robes toppled over, the black robes within spilling to the ground. Hidden deep within dozens of black robes, there was one white robe that was crushed at the very bottom. That was the real outer robe that Shilin had worn coming in. Needless to say, this must be a wicked spell that the brocade immortal had cast. While the two were trying on clothes randomly, it took the chance and dragged Shilian's outer robe into the chest, while it slipped out itself, transformed into that robe's appearance to replace it, and allowed itself to be picked up and put on by Shilian. Shilian wasn't surprised in the least, but was rather confused. Isn't this a little too cunning? It was only an article of clothing. Besides, didn't they say the brocade mortal itself wasn't very clever? However, it wasn't hard to guess that it was most likely Linguin who taught it this idea. Sure enough, Linguin said, I gave it this idea and didn't actually think it had come to use. So now, it's as if it was I who made your highness wear this brocade immortal. If it was Hua Cheng who had handed the robe to Shilian, and Shilian put it on, then the commander would be Hua Cheng. However, if the brocade immortal used Linguin's idea and tricked Shilian into wearing it, then the commander was Linguin, which meant Shilian now would obey Linguin's words and heed her every order. Linguin, Shilian tried, have you never thought that the brocade immortal might not work on me? Linguin smiled. I won't know until I've tried. Your Highness, from now on, you cannot attack me. If you hear me, then nod your head. Shilian didn't intend to nod. Just unexpectedly, after Linguin gave her order, before Shilian knew it, he had already involuntarily nodded. How come it was now effective? It clearly didn't work earlier when Hua Cheng gave orders. Could it be it was only ineffective when the commander was Hua Cheng? If that was the case, then the tables had suddenly turned. Shilian didn't move, Hua Cheng didn't move either, and the two only exchanged looks, both very calm and steady. Linguin was calm and steady too. Then, now, will Hua Chengju please remove the ward from the side chamber? Shilian instantly said, Sunlang, don't do it. Are you sure, Your Highness? Linguin said, I can order you to do anything. Hua Cheng remained still, and Shilian thought, even if I can't touch Linguin, it's all right. No one else is under such restriction. As long as Sunlang catches her off guard and seizes her, prevents her from giving any orders, then the problem will be solved. However, Linguin was sharp and guessed their plans. She added, Hua Chengju, I suggest you not waste your time thinking of a way to catch me off guard and hold me down. Your Highness, listen well. If Hua Chengju is to attack me, or do any sort of harm toward me, then you will attack him. With this, she blocked the plans the other party could have possibly used first. All right, Hua Chengju, it's time to remove the ward, Linguin said. I have work to do still. The palace of Linguin is piled with civil matters I need to manage that haven't been looked through yet. Can we solve this little problem quickly? Hua Cheng only smirked. The next moment, Linguin's eyes widened and she appeared as if she wanted to speak, but no voice was coming out. If there was anyone standing behind her right now, they would discover that on the back of her neck there perched a wraith butterfly with silver fluttering wings, since who knows when. It was this tiny creature that stopped her body from moving and made her unable to use her voice. Hua Cheng hugged his arms and showed that incredibly insincere fake smile. He said lazily, If I wanted to hold anyone down, did you think I'd need to catch them off guard? Linguin couldn't speak, but the words in her eyes were clear. Hua Chengju, have you forgotten? I've already given His Highness an order. And right then, the brocade immortal activated its powers. Shilian turned around abruptly, raised his hand, and lunged toward Hua Cheng. An unknown amount of time had passed before Shilian's vision suddenly cleared, and he instantly came to his senses. Sunlang, he called. Hua Cheng was standing right before him, and upon his red robe, over his heart, there was a crushing hand. It was Xilian's hand. Huacheng didn't dodge this blow at all and only stood there, letting Xilian strike full force on his heart. Xilian hadn't yet come around to react before Huacheng had firmly gripped his wrist, his voice low. All right, attack complete. Command release. Sure enough, after Xilian succeeded in his attack, he felt his body slacken, his freedom returning. For the sake of releasing Xilian from the command Linguin gave, Huacheng actually stood there and took that blow without dodging. Once the order was released, Xilian instantly withdrew his hand, his face dropping. It was a moment before he asked, Sanlang, are you hurt? He observed Huacheng's face closely. However, because Huacheng wasn't a live human being, his skin was the color of snow that hadn't seen the sun, and no visible changes could be seen at the moment. However, his tone of voice certainly didn't change, and he smiled. Gege is indeed incredible. What a beautiful blow. Xilian's face was dark, like he'd been scared by him. He said solemnly, I wasn't joking around. I used 1/7 of my strength in my hand earlier. Are you really all right? When Linguin gave her order, the word she used was attack. Typically, when Xilian exchanged blows with people, he never used attack as the reason to make a move. Usually, it was for self-defense or for holding the other down. So once he moved with attack as the reason, he really wasn't sure what would happen to the other if he was to strike directly. Huacheng replied slowly, I wasn't joking. Gege really is incredible. If you weren't wearing those two things on your body, perhaps not even Junwu would be your match. Xilian unconsciously touched his neck, and when he felt that cursed shackle, he immediately dropped his hand. Just then, Huacheng added, Gege, I have a question for you. What is it? Xilian asked. You had a chance to remove those cursed shackles, Huacheng said. Why did you keep those things to bind you? Xilian hadn't expected he'd ask that question and was taken aback. Maybe it was to remind myself of some things. He then said, Sanlang, don't change the subject. What kind of bad habit is this? The situation just now. It would have been fine if you just held me down. Why did you have to take the blow yourself? However, Huacheng replied, Gege, you knew this is a bad habit too. When it comes to taking a beating, you have no right to lecture me, you know. Oh really? Xilian said. But the moment the words left his mouth, he felt guilty. It must be known that at the time he fought the fetus spirit in the water, Huacheng had caught him red-handed for almost swallowing a sword. Huacheng replied, Oh really? Why use other ways if I can solve the problem by taking a beating? Is your bad influence on me? Xilian waved his hand. Never mind, Sanlang. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's look at these robes first. He pulled at the hem of that white robe, feeling extremely woeful. This was just great. The Brocade Immortal was definitely found. But now, they must think of a way to take it off.